This video is to introduce you to the parts of an atom, which is your first learning target for Chapter 16. I can identify the mass and charge and location of the three subatomic particles. You will need your pink legal-sized parts of an atom notes sheet. We are going to start by labeling the diagram of the atom that we have in the center of our pages. You'll notice mine is a little color-coded. On your paper it is just shades of gray, but feel free to add colors as you go along. We are going to start with one of the primary particles, and that is the proton. Protons are located in the center of the atom. So here I've labeled my yellow circles in the middle as my protons. We know that protons are positive, so go ahead and put a plus sign on each of those light colored particles in the center of the atom. The other particles that are in this center grouped together are called neutrons. Neutrons are neutral, so they have no sign. This is the center of the atom. It has a name, and that is the nucleus. So you see here with my green line, it indicates that all of this center of the atom is the nucleus. The third subatomic particle is the electron. Electron, electricity, these are the particles that create the flow of electricity so that we can use things like our computers and radios and cell phones. Electrons are in the outside, the empty space that makes up most of an atom, and they have a negative charge, so go ahead and draw in some negative signs on all of those electrons. Now the dotted lines, circles in the middle indicate not necessarily a physical part of the atom, but they represent the energy levels. We have the first energy level, which is the one closest to the nucleus, and mine is in blue. The second energy level then is the second from the nucleus. Mine is purple. And where do you think the third energy level would be? It's going to be 3 away from the nucleus. So let's go ahead, draw that in. Mine is pink, and I'm going to draw an arrow from the labeled box to my third energy level so I know what it's representing. There are 7 energy levels, but we will mostly only be dealing with the first 3 in this class. So now that we have all the parts labeled, we're going to go through some slides, and you can put the information from the slides into the appropriate box. So when we're talking about protons, the information will go here, neutrons will go here, etc. If you run out of space, you can always use either the margins, the free space around the boxes, or you can flip it over to the back of your paper and write down some extra information back there. So let's go to the protons. Protons have a positive 1 charge. They have a mass of 1 AMU. That stands for atomic mass unit, and we will learn more about that on the last slide. They are found in the nucleus, and the number of protons is equal to the atomic number. This is one of your vocabulary words, so I've made it a different color. You can underline it, highlight it, circle it, something to indicate that this is one of your vocabulary terms. And the neat thing about protons is that they determine the identity of the element. So the number of protons tells you which element you have. Carbon atom, gold atom, tungsten atom, we can tell simply by counting or knowing the number of protons. Neutrons have a neutral charge. Like I said before, this means that the charge is zero. It's not positive or negative, it's zero. Just like neutral in your car means it's not in forward or reverse, it's nothing. Neutrons also have a mass of 1 AMU, so they're very similar in size and mass to the protons. They are also found in the nucleus, and they help stabilize the atom. It keeps all of those positives in the middle from pushing away from each other too much. These exist in the nucleus. The nucleus is the dense center of the atom. On our picture, it shows the nucleus as fairly big, but it is actually very tiny compared to the overall size of the atom. If we had the atom the size of a football field, the nucleus would be about the size of a marble on the 50-yard line. So the nucleus contains the protons and neutrons, therefore it has almost all of the mass, and it also has an overall positive charge. Our electrons, they have the -1 charge, so it's the same amount of charge, it's just opposite of the protons. They have a negligible mass, which means the mass is so small we can ignore it and say that it's zero. In actuality, it is around 0.0006 AMU, so thousandths the size of the protons and neutrons. These electrons orbit the nucleus in the energy levels. In a neutral atom, the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. So if there are 5 positives in the nucleus, 5 protons, then to balance those out, there need to be 5 negatives, so 5 electrons in the energy levels. So +5 and -5 cancel each other out. We don't include the neutrons in that because they are neutral. The first energy level, well, the energy levels are the empty space around the nucleus where the electrons are found. Again, it's not necessarily a solid line where the electrons live, it's more of a region of space. The first energy level is the one closest to the nucleus. It can hold up to 2 electrons. So the first electron and second electron that go into an atom fill up the first energy level. They will always go to the first energy level first because it requires the least amount of energy to stay attached to that nucleus. The second energy level then is the second from the nucleus. It has a higher amount of energy required for those electrons to stay in that energy level. So it fills up second. So after the first energy level is full, then electrons start filling in the second energy level, and it can hold up to 8 electrons. So the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th electrons actually fill up the second energy level. And the third energy level then is the third from the nucleus. It has a higher energy requirement than even the first and second energy levels, and it fills up after the first 2 energy levels are full. And if you take chemistry, you will learn more about how the electrons arrange themselves in the third and higher energy levels. So that is the basic information that you need to know the parts, the locations, the masses, and the charges of the 3 subatomic particles. This is some extra information that is also very important to understanding the structure of the atom and why we need to know it as we move forward through finishing up our chemistry. If the number of protons changes, then the atom actually changes into an atom of a different element. This does not happen very often. It's so rare that there's actually an entire branch of chemistry that studies just this occasion because it's so rare. So the number of protons identifies the type of element, and if that changes, it changes the element that it is. The neutrons are important as well, but the number of neutrons in an atom, even of the same element, can vary. This forms the isotopes. Here's another vocab word. Highlight it, circle it, something. This forms the isotopes of different elements. For example, carbon always has 6 protons, but some carbon atoms have 6 neutrons, and some carbon atoms have 7 neutrons, and some carbon atoms have 8 neutrons. So those are isotopes: carbon-12, carbon-13, and carbon-14. The electrons, this can vary in the different atoms as well. Like I said before, if it's the same number of positive protons and negative electrons, the atom doesn't have a charge. But those electrons can actually move from one energy level to another. If they get really excited, they can jump up to higher energy levels. And if they lose some energy, they can jump back down to the lower energy levels. They can even become so excited, gain so much energy, that they can leave the atom and even go join another atom. When that happens, so there's a different number of protons and electrons in any given atom, that forms an ion. So 2 of our vocabulary terms are cation and anion. One, the cation, is when an electron leaves an atom, so there are more positive charges, leaving it positively charged overall. The anion forms when an electron actually joins the atom, so there are more negatives than there are positives, leaving an overall negative charge. And I said that I would tell you a little more about the atomic mass unit. 1 AMU, and it is pronounced AMU, not AMU. 1 atomic mass unit equals 1/12 the mass of a carbon atom. That's how they decided what mass an AMU was. The reason that we have a different mass unit and we don't just use grams or kilograms is that the atoms are so tiny that 1 AMU has a mass of approximately 0.00023 zeros 166 grams. That would not be detectable on any of the lab equipment that is currently available in the world, so we have created, or scientists have created, a mass unit strictly for dealing with atoms and molecules. So we don't use grams for atoms. We use AMU. Feel free to watch this video and pause when you need to take down notes, rewatch it, rewind, fast forward, whatever you need to do in order to make sure that you get this information down. Then study the information, and your next assignment is to complete the Venn diagram that compares and contrasts protons, neutrons, and electrons. Be sure to include information about their charges, their masses, their locations, and whether or not they change for each individual atom.